to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast with Borg, Betz, and a baller.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday, November 20th. We're here, Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined by Jason Moore and Matthew Betz.
How you doing, boys? Thanksgiving is 1 week away, which is crazy to say. You know, Turkey Day is almost here.
November did November disappear for you guys the way it did for us? I was talking about that with my family. It was like, oh my gosh, we're in the second half of November. When did that happen? Our lives have been crazy busy, but is that just this year flying by, or what's going on?
The last few weeks, I don't know about you guys, for me, I felt like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like flown by. The other night, my wife and I were talking about Christmas gifts for our kids, and I was like, I didn't really want to have the conversation. I was like, we've got time. Like, why are we doing this? And she's like, Christmas is in like 6 weeks. I was like, what? Like, is that real? And she was like, yep. So yeah, I'm with you, man. It is flown. But the NFL season, the weekly like schedule just feels like you're on repeat every single week for 18 weeks straight. So by the time we get to November, it always feels like we're moving through quicksand.
I do feel like the schedule, like you get to Halloween, we obviously had some big stuff going on in our country, and then I feel like after that none of us really planned. And then for fantasy purposes, I didn't really plan on week 12 being the bipocalypse that it was. Like, I knew there was bye weeks. I understood. And then I look around at my dynasty teams, was like, oh, I got backups. No, I don't have anybody. And I think everybody's feeling it. Like, I started to feel like bad that I didn't plan well. And I realized that no one has a plan.
Well,
right
and in a dynasty league specifically, redraft leagues, you can plan a little bit easier. You've got a lot more turnover. You're picking up guys off the waivers all the time, and the waivers are ripe with options for bye-week replacements, injuries. But in a dynasty league, it's very, very difficult and sometimes impossible if you don't have trading on in your league to truly prepare. It's not like when you're drafting these guys, their bye week scheduled 3 years from now or whatever, and then there's not a lot of guys on waivers to go after. My main dynasty league, Mike walks in this morning. He goes, dude, have you seen your dynasty team? And I was like, I did not yet have a look at my main dynasty league.
Like, he felt bad for you?
Yeah, he felt bad for me because here are my running backs on the roster. Breece Hall on bye. Let's see. My page went away. Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Kamini Vidal, Bijan Robinson, Ty Johnson, and Kareem Hunt. So I have one running back who is actually playing, assuming that Pacheco is not the starter this week. And outside of that, I'm going to dynasty waiver wires to have a start. Like, who am I picking up? Am I just going with the Abdullah Express and hoping that the ankle
I'm doing that
and
in the league.
Injuries ahead? It's going to be gross.
Oh, man. The fact that you even included Kamani Vidal in that list of players not available for you.
Yeah. My point is,
says a lot.
That is all of them.
That should be fun this week. It's going to be a very low-scoring week across dynasty leagues, I think.
Yes. And speaking of nasty, I'm in a dynasty league where I am running 13 personnel. We're talking 3 tight ends. I'm going to have to, but it's Jonnu, Cade Otton, Will Disley. Like, I kind of like these guys.
It's not bad.
So I feel like everybody's feeling it right now, and most leagues are post-trade deadline. So you're not able to maneuver like you used to, but that is the fun part of the season. We're kind of gearing up towards playoffs. I know a lot of people are, hey, I have no shot, or hey, I traded at the deadline, I have this player, and I'm making a run. So hopefully everything we got to talk about on this show throughout the season is getting to help you. And also the ultimate dashboard, if you're one of those people, you're trying to figure out your start sits, you're trying to figure out like what's there. Amir Abdullah is one of those players that's going to show up on dynasty waiver wires, redraft waiver wires, and it might be one of those things where we say like, hey, you kind of need to start him.
Well, yeah, Zamir White, will have to see if he's active. I haven't heard anything on his
Betz,
injury.
What's the update?
I haven't seen anything on that. I went back through Pierce's presser yesterday. He didn't talk about him at all. So
yeah, which leads me to believe he might be fine. when you can't find any information and there's not even a question asked. Alexander Madison, obviously, his seems more severe. He couldn't return to the game with the ankle injury. So, yeah, I mean, otherwise you're talking about Cordero Patterson and, guys that Kyle Juszczyk, you just hope for a wacky play touchdown,
Yeah.
If you're starting Kyle Juszczyk this week, I think it's time to start looking forward to week 13.
Yeah, I mean, they're nasty indeed.
Yeah, if the fullback, I mean, Lauby is out there, I think, in some leagues.
Oh, I'm starting him this week, baby.
Oh, man.
And Dino Jr.
Dynasty is fun, man.
You're at the point where you're taking the worst running game in football, the Raiders, and you're saying, you know what? The fourth string could be somebody that I may like, because Lauby's thing, New Hampshire, I believe, wasn't that the college you went to? Where
correct,
he was a crazy pass catcher, but even that, it's like Abdullah's going to be the dude. Also, crazy that we're still talking about Amir Abdullah in fantasy football as just a name that's still in the league.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw Dante Pettis run back the touchdown on special teams there's some names that are just like, wow, this middling, not successful NFL player is still around 6-7 years after the hope has died. It's like you get that from Allen Robinson, right? Allen Robinson's still around, and you're like, wow, that's crazy because he's doing nothing. But he was a great player. He's got a name that, carried him through a long career. But the guys that really never made it, and they had a little glimmer of hope, but then they flamed out and didn't become a thing. When they're there 7 or 8 years, I don't know if it's their agent. Like they've got a real good relationship somewhere.
That's how it feels with Jonnu, as like somebody in Dynasty that I've just had, never really thought about starting the last 2 or 3 years. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm kind of counting on this guy every single week. Did not expect that for 2024 fantasy, which, let's be honest, 2024 fantasy has felt like turning back the clock on a lot of players, and especially running backs that were old. Like, take all the dynasty strategy that we talk about and just say, hey, whatever age cliff I thought was there for these running backs, it doesn't matter this year. This is irrelevant. All the top dudes.
It's an interesting season. It feels really old school, where it's like, for like 3 years, these last couple years, the game was like, okay, you got to get your stud wide receivers. You'll figure it out at running back. But it's like, man, if you don't have at least 2 of these, top 15 or so running backs, you're probably not winning anything this year. So good year for the running backs. Running backs matter.
Yeah. Bad year for the flex, as you called them, Chase, Jalen Warren types. Bad year for those dudes.
Yeah.
Who aren't really helping. All right.
All the insurance backs, no insurance policies are being cashed.
Yeah. Trey Benson has been a player that I just keep waiting. And he's been better recently, at least more efficient. But yeah, those kind of guys haven't really hit. Moving on.
Weekly Rewind.
Every week, we rewind the film. We do a deep dive on a player. This week, we're going to do a little collective effort where we zeroed in on one game. And I feel like the Green Bay-Chicago game wasn't a shootout. There was the field goal at the end. That's kind of the big story. But I think what we wanted to zoom in on is the quarterback play of Caleb under a new offensive regime. And then the Packers coming off the bye. It was interesting just the way that they utilized their wide receivers. You saw a big game from Christian Watson out of nowhere. So, Betz, I'll let you start first because I think Caleb and the Bears offense without Shane Waldron, who, remember, he's a nice guy. We just don't want him calling in our plays. What did you see?
Yeah, it was really interesting and kind of refreshing to see, honestly, because, when you look at what was happening with Waldron there, like surprisingly, they were actually very pass heavy. With Thomas Brown, the new interim OC, they went a little bit more run heavy. They slowed things down. Their pace of play was down. And they focused a lot more on just get the ball out of Caleb's hands quickly and let's not put him in a position to fail. Where like with Waldron, it seemed like it was like, okay, let's drop him back. Let's rely on our line. Let's rely on Caleb to create and hope for the best. And obviously we saw that go terribly. This past week, though, he had 2.42 seconds after the snap to throw the ball. That was the fastest of his career. I mean, obviously one season, but of his career so far. They got the ball out quicker. 19 of his 23 completions were 10 yards or closer to the line of scrimmage. So it was a very quick hitter, screens, quick crossers, stuff like that. just to get the ball out and make it simple on Caleb. And on top of that, it was so encouraging to see them not just get the ground game going with DeAndre Swift a little bit, but like Caleb as a runner, 9 for 70 on the ground. Some of those were designed. A lot of them were scrambles, but they were not the old scrambles of what we've seen the first, 2 months where it was like, okay, the play is breaking down. I guess I'll take off. It was very decisive, very quick. And when he did it deliberately and made the right choice, it worked incredibly well for the offense. So I was pretty encouraged with what I saw there from Caleb and the Bears. Hopefully that continues moving forward.
Yeah, I'm very hopeful for the Bears and for Caleb Williams with the offensive coordinator change. I'm hopeful that they instructed him to run more, to use those legs, because it's a weapon he has that instead of just using the legs to scramble out and throw back across your body for plays that aren't working in the NFL, go north-south and pick up yards, because 70 rushing yards made an impact, and you saw it happen quickly into a play. If he recognized that there was grass ahead of him, he just went, and I really love that. And then I'm also a little bit hopeful for the DJ Moore side of thing. You saw some get the ball in his hands stuff, a little bit more of the screen game that he's really, really good at, and set up well, better executed than we saw with Waldron. So, at least some hope going forward. Although, man alive, the run of the next games for Caleb Williams to finish out this season, it's I know Minnesota's passing defense isn't great, but they're a good defense. Detroit, their passing defense, they've got a couple injuries, but I think they're a good defense. They're just a great team. San Francisco, generally speaking, a top defense. Then Minnesota again, then Detroit again. It's just like that. He doesn't get any layups. He's going to have to make some three-pointers here.
How would you guys characterize how I've talked about Caleb on this podcast? Because I've done, we did the rewind, I think 3 or 4 times. I brought him up. I
You're a hater, man. You're a hater.
Okay, I was just more saying that I think there's a lot more that could go wrong as a scrambler and everything else, and turnovers and the pressure to sack stuff. But I'm able to hopefully look at this game, and I did, and go, this is why he was taken. He's a good quarterback. He can be a good quarterback if in the right system. And so I think it just sustained a lot of things of okay, well, in a lot of people's minds, Caleb's just been on this downward trend. If you are a dynasty manager of Caleb Williams, you should be encouraged by this. But Jason said it's going to be a rough go of it. But don't abandon ship because of an offensive coordinator that's never going to be in his life again. And we have to remind ourselves of that. Of a lot of these guys, it's you're given this, it's not good, and then you get to switch it out. But on the other side of the ball, Jordan Love only dropped back 20 times. So there really wasn't a ton of film, but the plays were huge. He averaged 15.4 yards per attempt, which is just not sustainable. And the thing I noticed is he just had so much time. The whole time I'm watching the game, I'm like, is he just sitting back there doing whatever he wants to do? And I checked the numbers. It was his highest time to throw, where you talked about Caleb getting the ball out fast. Love just kind of got to sit there and wait and wait and wait and wait. It was the highest of all quarterbacks in week 11. His time to throw was 3.62. But I'm trying to figure out these wide receivers, guys, because every single time I feel like I get a good read of who's good at something. I feel like all of them kind of complement each other, but I feel like I don't really know week to week who's going to be the guy. Jaden Reed got an early touchdown. You would think that he would be able to take over, and then was basically absent the second half. It was a lot more Watson. And then you look on the course of the season, Jaden Reed's been awesome on yards per route run. He leads this team. 2.8 yards per route run is a really good number. But he's being targeted less than Watson, less than Wicks on a per route basis. I just worry week to week about his volatility. I like what I saw from Love, but I'm just worried about what Reed is in this offense. And there'll be weeks where he's the 4th or 5th option, which shouldn't happen at all.
Can I bring up something for discussion? There had been a pivot recently as this year, maybe the year prior as well. A long time ago, we would always talk about the importance of bigger wide receivers. You pretty much, if you want to be relevant for fantasy, you got to be 200 pounds. Especially when you're looking at Dynasty and you're looking at prospects and longevity of a career and yada, yada.
We had to change our metrics.
And we had to kind of change our metrics because you started to see smaller and smaller wide receivers kind of having an impact. We saw Jaden Reed having an impact. He's 187 pounds. We saw Tank Dell, rookie season, come out here and dominate. And we have a lot of these smaller, not classic wide receiver ones for teams being really, really high fantasy football options in today's modern NFL. But I feel like I feel like we're taking L's on some of these lighter wide receivers this year. And it's all the big boys. It's the Nico Collins and all the guys that are over 200 are the ones I actually want on my fantasy roster. And I just don't know if I'm overreacting or, getting curmudgeon-y, but do you guys feel that at all? Or is that just stupid? Is it, I don't know, man. I'm just starting to worry about for the first time ever, I'm like buying in and totally okay with these undersized wide receivers. And I feel like it's bit me in the butt like a rattlesnake.
I hear what you're saying. Painful. Because the players like Nico that we used to just kind of categorize as he's an outside X dude. He's never really going to be used creatively. He's Dez Bryant on the outside. And a lot of times that's going to dominate and then it's just going to disappear. Where you see these other players moved all over formation, put in motion in the slot, and you're like, this is a fun player that does have these free releases. Like I'm even thinking Cedric Tillman is a big dude that I would have just written off and just said like, okay, well, we don't really need that in today's NFL, like with zone, but teams are actually playing, we talked about it, more man this year. And so you're seeing these big boys just kind of like outbody people, and not just with jump balls, but like intermediate things.
Yeah, I mean, I look at all the guys that are, breaking out or established. Drake London has been great. He's just this big-bodied wide receiver, and you go kind of top to bottom, everyone is crossing that threshold again. And all these little guys, Chris Olave was doing okay, but he got, unfortunately, he got injured. Tyreek Hill's an outlier and is irrelevant for this conversation. But it's just like a lot of the smaller guys, I don't know, man. It's hard. Is it just hard for them to be consistent?
I think it's situation dependent mostly. There's some guys that are still a little undersized that are performing quite well. I mean, Zay Flowers has had a really good year. Lad looks awesome.
Oh, Ladidi
in LA. Ladidi. Josh Downs has had some nice moments this year. So I don't know. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. The truth is always right. It's never like as good or as bad as it seems.
Yes,
somewhere in the middle.
Yes, it's always worth saying. The pendulum wants to swing to the other side, but you got to stop it in the middle.
I mean, I'm just going to make a little personal thing here. Jason, like the curve of you're losing weight right now. You're in with the guys, and then all of a sudden the big boys want to come back.
Yeah, I'm going to start putting on them LBs, you know what I mean? I'm going to get me some canes, go knuckles deep in that sauce.
Holiday's right around the corner, baby.
I will say Jason's wearing a hoodie right now if you're looking on YouTube right now, and it's a great sight, man. I can count it on number of on my hand how many times I've seen you in a jacket.
Yeah, it's not often that
you're in the state though that doesn't get cold, so.
But that's never. I mean, I've literally gone to an ice bar where I'm shirtless and it doesn't bother me. I was in the New Year in New York in Times Square where everyone is in snow jackets and I'm holding my jacket because I'm sweaty. I get cold now. Turns out you lose a bunch of weight. You get colder.
Somewhere somebody is driving and they're just picturing Jason Moore shirtless at the ice bar.
Congratulations. I hope you all are.
And they're just cruising along. They're not veering off the road. They're just like, I get this.
No, they're just happy. They're just happy having daydreams of joy.
And then they get home, they tell their spouse, and their spouse is like, what are you talking about? You're like, oh, trust me, Jason Moore, shirt off. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Well, how funny. We have a picture of me shirtless in the ice bar. I did not realize we had this.
Great work.
Jeremy just comes in perfect timing from Al Borland there.
Oh, it's great work. So on today's episode, what we're going to do is what's called a Dynasty Sink or Swim. And Dynasty is the format where you are trying to figure out the value of a player, whether you're in it or not, heading into the next season. So heading into 2025, you are kind of assessing with this player, is this a sinking to the bottom of the ocean, kind of like, Jack and Rose situation. You just let them go, let them sink, no matter how much you love them. Or are you willing to just swim and say, hey, I think I'm going to stand up for this player. I see a path for this player turning things around. So we're going to talk about some players today that have dropped in value a ton since the beginning of the year, kind of compare the value and talk about it.
Splash.
That's good. It's a great drop.
Nice drop.
I know. So we're going to talk about some of these players, and I wanted to start us off first because we mentioned earlier the Bears, and the player I want to bring up is DJ Moore because he is 27.6 years old, and at the beginning of the season, there is some excitement about the Bears passing attack. 3 wide receivers there, and I think for a while we were like, okay, we think DJ's the one. Odunze's going to be awesome at least a year or so from now, and Keenan's kind of just there to help Caleb. Now I'm looking,
and at that time, you had a 4-year, $110 million contract given out to DJ Moore. So, what
if I told you that right now he's seen as outside the top 30 in Dynasty wide receiver rankings? Because before the season, he was kind of in that 15 to 20-ish range. I'm seeing some places that had him at wide receiver 18. That's a massive drop in value. So it's one thing to talk about a player's performance, and it hasn't been good. He has one game inside the top 30 this year. But it's another thing to kind of talk about value and how people perceive DJ Moore moving forward, because he's still really relatively young. Like we've said that every year of his career, but this is season 7 and he's not even 28 years old. So I don't really care about the age part. I don't really care about, what season of his career he's in. Like DJ Moore is still a player at this juncture where you can look at him and kind of just gauge it based on what you think the Chicago offense will be moving forward. His first game without Waldron, 7 receptions, 62 yards. It was his best game since week 5. So I'm going to first ask this question. DJ Moore in Dynasty, do you view him as a wide receiver 2 moving forward? And by forward, I mean like going into 2025. Like, is he a wide receiver 2 for a team?
Yes. For a fantasy team?
For a fantasy team.
Yes. I think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 or better next season. I think he'll be drafted that way as well for dynasty purposes.
I agree. I think this drop in value, I mean, it's pretty much strictly related to just what the Bears offense has been, not including this past week, but, everything around the Bears has been negative. Basically, since the season started with just the downward trajectory of the offense. This feels like an overreaction to me for a player. Like you said, he's not even 28 years old. The talent is there. The contract is there. We still think Caleb can be a good NFL quarterback in the right system. Now, that's the question mark, is like, what does this offensive coaching staff look like next year? Nobody really knows. But I think you just trust the talent that he has, the upside of a Caleb Williams if it hits, and knowing that next year, like it's very likely to only be DJ Moore and Rome Odunze that are getting targeted. I mean, Cole Kmet too, but Keenan Allen on his way out, obviously. So, yeah, I think this is a bit of an overreaction. I like buying him right now.
Yeah, so going into the season, or going into 2025, you think he's a player that you can get cheaper than what he should be valued?
No, I don't think so. I think you can do it now. Right now, if you trade for DJ. Once we hit the offseason, the youth, the future, the hope of, Caleb progressing, the fact that there will be probably a new coach in town that is offensive-minded, there will be a lot of hype, and I think DJ Moore will receive – he'll bump right back to where he should be. But right now, I mean, for 2 reasons. One, because you've had 10 weeks of Waldron suckfest, and he just hasn't been good. So you've got worries of Caleb. You've got worries of this offense. You've got worries of DJ Moore. That's just the narrative side. But then the other side is another part of the reason why I think he's cheaper now and undervalued now from a long-term perspective is because he does not project to help anyone win this year. Like right now, you can't start DJ Moore. In a bipocalypse, okay, he's going to find his way in. I'm starting DeMarcus Robinson. Of course I would start DJ Moore. He's got explosive upside, but he is not someone that any team looks at right now, dynasty or redraft, and says he's going to be part of my path to winning, the championship this year. So if there's a player that doesn't project to be able to help you this year, his value is always going to be nerfed on that. So I agree with you, Betz. If you're taking a longer term approach, I'd be very happy to go trade for him on the current price, meaning on the underprice, on the undervalued, treating him like a wide receiver 36, treating him like, an acquirable asset that, hey, this isn't going to help you this year. Let me give you someone that can help you this year. I'll take the risk that Caleb isn't it, and then DJ Moore ages out or whatever, because I think they will fix it, and I expect him to be a wide receiver 2 or better next year.
His yards per catch is down at 9.8, which is by far the lowest of his career. And you mentioned earlier, Betz, a lot of it was getting the ball out quickly. That's kind of been it. I mean, that the range of players that usually DJ Moore is the opposite. We're talking a couple years ago, it was 18 a catch, or, a lot of them were 14 a catch. Right now, he's right there with guys like Tyler Boyd, Pop Douglas, Keenan Allen. Like, that's kind of been the rookie quarterback, which we brought up as kind of a fear. But the hardest thing with players like DJ Moore is you see a wide receiver 6 season last season, and you go like, that's what I always dreamed of. That's what I always knew he could be. And so my question is, do you think he still has left in his career? So he'll be, 28 this offseason. Do you think he still has a top 12 season in his career left?
I do.
It's possible. I mean, that's such a tough bar to clear, right? I mean, there's only 12 guys in the NFL. Obviously, you got to stay healthy for that. I think Moore's, he's a guy that I think is probably more in the, 15 to 20 range, most likely. But if the upside hits with Caleb, I think it's possible. It's just, I think, if I'm going to say yes or no, I think I'd lean no, but I definitely see the path where it happens.
Jason, you sound a little bit more bullish. Like, obviously you're not saying this will happen, but you're saying like, I think that's more in the range of outcomes as likely than not.
Yeah, I believe that when they get the right coach in here, Caleb has shown me enough. I mean, he's put on some bad tape. He has done things that are terrible. We've all seen the side-by-side stat comparisons between Bryce Young and Caleb Williams, and they're like, oh my gosh, he's doing his own Bryce Young. I mean, he's throwing for the same, completion percentage and interceptions and lack of touchdowns and lack of yards, and it's been bad. But last year when we watched rookie Bryce Young, I never once saw plays, or certainly not a game, that was like, that guy's got, an asset, a tool, something to really fall back on, something that when he gets right, he's going to be special. I've seen that a handful of times with Caleb Williams. So my projection for DJ Moore is 100% surrounded by my projection of Caleb Williams. I'm not out on Caleb. I still believe Caleb Williams is going to be a good fantasy quarterback, and it might not be developing into the Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck tier of those number one picks who were highly touted, and they might start slow, but they develop. But even if he just goes the route of Trevor Lawrence, where it's like, okay, he is a legit NFL quarterback. He's not great. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with him, but he is a franchise quarterback that's, about quarterback 15 in the NFL. That can support NFL wide receivers. We've seen Christian Kirk with a wide receiver 1 season, with Trevor Lawrence. And if Caleb Williams just becomes a franchise quarterback, maybe not a sensational superstar, I think that's enough to put DJ Moore back to a wide receiver 1 season.
What if Caleb goes the route of like DGAF for fantasy, where he just says like, I'm just going to chuck it because there isn't. Yes. That's what I want him to be.
Oh, that's who every fantasy manager wants everyone to be. Just chuck it, man. Although the issue is a lot of Caleb's chucking it is not remotely catchable. That is like Jameis, for all of his flaws, he'll chuck it to triple coverage and get picked. But that ball's still going to the wide receiver. You know what I mean? The wide receiver's got a chance to make that play. There's just also 3 defenders with a chance to make that play. It was like a dumb decision, but it's usually a really good-ish pass with no thought behind it. And so I do need to see Caleb get the accuracy on the deep ball dialed in.
And I don't know about his speeches. I don't know how Caleb does it.
No one can. I mean, Jamal Williams. That's it. That's the only person that can put on a show like Jameis.
Oh man,
he's so good for the NFL, man. I love that he's starting.
Oh, it's incredible that we're looking at Elijah Moore right now and going, sweet, I'll start him. I'm kind of excited about it. Let me just put two names real quick with DJ Moore. In Dynasty, would you rather have DJ Moore or Josh Downs?
DJ Moore.
Man, that one is really, really tough. You know what? I hope this isn't swinging the pendulum too far, but I am going to take my weight-based argument and say that I don't know, how long Josh Downs will hold up in this role. There's great flashes of brilliance, but he's an undersized guy. I'm going to take the hardy DJ Moore.
Yes, I would take DJ Moore as well. And then one more, Keon Coleman or DJ Moore?
DJ Moore.
Moore.
Okay. Right now, I'm looking at certain sites, Keep Trade Cut, and they actually have Coleman and Downs ahead of DJ Moore. And I think it's one of those things where you think about excitement and youth, and we'll see how Coleman finishes out the season. But I think that's a deal that you could maybe get done in a dynasty circle, especially if you're talking with a team that's rebuilding. So, Jason, who do you have here for us figuring out if we're going to sink or swim?
So the first player that came to mind when I was just looking at guys who've really lost value and that you're unsure of, is this going to be like a career thing or is this just a bad start, is Marshawn Lloyd, rookie running back, if you can even call him a rookie running back, for the Green Bay Packers, because he has not played running back during his rookie season. I do believe he got 14% of the snaps in week 2. And that is the first time we saw him.
I totally forgot that happened, by the way.
That is the last time we saw him. So they obviously had a plan to work him in. This is a player, just to remind people, he was the number 88 pick in the draft, a day 2 pick for the running back position. So good enough draft capital for a team that lost Aaron Jones. That also for a team that very much wants to have a running back by committee approach. Now, they have not really had a very split approach because without Marshawn Lloyd there, and obviously they weren't chilling with the villain and they let A.J. Dillon go. They have not had other backs to really perform well enough to allow Josh Jacobs to be on the sideline. And they're in a place and a win-loss record where it's like, every play, every game is really mattering, so Josh Jacobs has to stay on the field. But Marshawn Lloyd, I think, was a good player, fit this system really well, and the Packers very much wanted to utilize his speed for this offense. We have seen LaFleur just design such a brilliant offense around Love, and even when Love was gone, just whatever works with his personnel. I think he'll get the most out of Marshawn Lloyd. I hope that this does not become a Kendre Miller situation where the day 2 draft pick of a talented player whose film I liked, who the team invested in to draft him, just can't get healthy, and the team eventually just has to say, we're moving on. And so it's really difficult because I don't think there are a lot of good examples of players who get off to such an epically slow start, even due to injury. I mean, I'm not talking about the guys who, they were drafted, injured, and knew, okay, the rookie season, we're just taking a red shirt year. That's not what happened with Marshawn Lloyd. Players that are drafted and just can't stay healthy and are epically worthless in their rookie year, man, we don't have a lot of good examples of them coming back. I was just top of mind trying to think of players like that, and Jameson Williams came to mind, and it took him, 2 years because he did have the injury from college, but then he had the suspension for gambling, and it just seemed like, because I remember talking through him, well, will he ever be able to bounce back? The team has moved on. The team is not going to be just sitting here trying to develop Jameson Williams. They're too good for that. Jameson Williams has to catch up on his own, and he did. I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but he is certainly a very relevant, useful piece of a very good offense. So Marshawn Lloyd, he's obviously in a rookie contract, so he's cheap. He will be back next year. He's part of a great offense, and I don't know, man. What do you think his chances are of being a very relevant part of this committee, and maybe the heir apparent to Josh Jacobs versus the it's not going to work out. They're going to find someone else this offseason to kind of usurp Marshawn Lloyd, and Marshawn Lloyd will just be their RB3.
Yeah, it's been a train wreck situation. I mean, think about like what the offseason has looked like, right? You think back late July, he had a hip issue, missed the start of camp. In August, hamstring injury, misses week 1, comes back for week 2, ankle injury. We haven't seen him since. Supposed to be off IR, appendicitis.
Yeah, he was part of the game plan for this week. They were saying like he was reported, and sometimes these things get inflated, that he was going to be a big part of the game plan, but then literally woke up and his appendix had to be emergency removed. Like this, the luck on this guy's insane. Betz, from that standpoint on the appendicitis and the time to recover before you can come back and play at full strength. I know people have done it before. I don't remember the timelines. What is that? Is that like you can play next week? Is that like you're limited?
Be a few weeks.
A few weeks.
It'll be,
goodness gracious.
Yeah. It does feel a lot like Kendra Miller. Like similar draft capital, just couldn't stay healthy. I mean, I think, the coaching staff is a little more forgiving maybe in Green Bay than Dennis Allen. But just overall, like same kind of situation where it's like the guy just could not get on the field. And then eventually you can't earn the trust of your quarterback, of your coaching staff, all those things. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that we could see a couple games here down the stretch where Marshawn Lloyd can get in there. The problem is, like you said, once he does come back healthy, it's like, do they trust him at all? Because the playoff picture right now in the NFC North, I mean, the Lions obviously are the Lions. Minnesota's 8-2. Green Bay is 7-3. Like, they need to win games to make the postseason. When the chips are down, I just don't think they're going to go to him. So it's tough. And then you enter next year like this ambiguous situation of what even is he? We have no idea. So yeah, I lean more towards the sink side of the argument, just with the contract to Josh Jacobs, which, I'll admit I was kind of out on Josh Jacobs this year. That looks like a massive, massive miss. He's been great this year, and very reliable for that team. So he's not going anywhere. Lloyd, he's going to be on the team. It's just I have no idea what his role is moving forward.
So my official stance is because we haven't seen him. There's been literally, obviously, tons of injuries, and we know that that can make the wheels fall off for a player, for his trust, for the team, whatever. But we also haven't seen him play bad or be, not what they hoped and what they expected. So I feel like his value dropping right now to pretty much next to nothing, to a viewed worthless piece. I think he swims. I believe he will not just be injured the rest of his entire life, and he will get in, and LaFleur will get the most out of him, and I think he's a talented player. So I'm still in on Marshawn Lloyd, but he's one of those names that comes up where it's like, I mean, it feels like a coin flip. And so some managers might just be completely OUT on him.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts there. Kyron was the name that came to mind of somebody who was injured their rookie year. Like, literally, like, is this guy ever
opening
going
kickoff?
Right, and then all of a sudden, like, he did come back later that year, but, like, didn't get much work. And then all the offseason stuff is what we saw the year after to kind of ramp up. So, different draft capital, but it was a situation where it's like, is this dude even, like, going to be on a roster? Like, it doesn't really matter. Another vote, and I can tell that Jason's going to be totally behind this, of why Lloyd matters, is because Chris Brooks is so bad.
Oh, my gosh, that dude.
Emmanuel Wilson, too.
Emmanuel Wilson is fine. I mean, he's not great, but he's had some runs that impress me. He's fine.
Chris Brooks.
Chris Brooks. I mean, when I see that human being with the ball in his hands, I'm just like, why is he on the, like, put me out there? Why is he out on the field doing nothing for worthless plays? I don't know, man. I don't know what goes on in the practices. Maybe he's a great practice player, a great glue guy. But no, that is certainly, I mean, they need him. I genuinely think that this team is a better team and a better offense with Marshawn Lloyd active, and that's why I'm kind of in on him.
Yes. Brooks did have a catch this past week when I was watching that Jordan Love film where he, like, broke a tackle and they were, like, ripping his jersey, and I was like, okay,
that
there
was
he
fun.
is.
That was the play where the guy went surfing, right? Like the defender
He's just pulling on his undershirt and like
yeah,
ripping
exactly.
it.
It's like he's water surfing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's unbelievable because there was like a yard where he was just kind of pulled by the shirt. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. So I will say, final point on Lloyd is that, you hope he does something if you're a Lloyd manager the rest of the year, earn some trust. Jacobs is going to be on this team next year, 9.4 dead cap. They're not cutting him. But I feel like in the offseason or moving towards the draft, this would be the perfect player to exchange for a third. Like people, your third's going to be more valuable. People are going to look at the shiny new objects, and there's a good running back class, but still, the your third round rookie pick is worthless. So, all right, Betz, you're up.
All right, let's talk about the Niners. It's been a rough season overall. The guy I want to highlight today and get your guys' thoughts on it is Deebo Samuel, who is currently 28.8, so he's going to be 29 this offseason. And, for Deebo, like, if you would have told me at the start of the season, go back to August, Christian McCaffrey's going to miss 9 or 10 games, Brandon Ayuk's going to tear his ACL, Ricky Pearsall is going to miss a bunch of time, like, I would say, oh, okay, Deebo is clearly smashing in this situation. It's been very meh overall. His efficiency has dropped off a little bit as far as like his fantasy points per route run. His expected fantasy points are down. Juwan Jennings is like commanding targets like a true alpha wide receiver.
He's the man.
Over Deebo, which is just so weird and wild to think about from their situation in the team, but not just that, but like their career arc, right? Jennings has been in the league for a while. He's done nothing until this year. Deebo has kind of been, when he's on the field, like he is their centerpiece in the role of Kyle Shanahan's guy. It's just a weird season. I don't know what to think about Deebo. Like, is he hitting the start of a decline in his age? Is he gonna bounce back next year? Like, I don't know what to think about Deebo this year. And he did have a couple games, where he had like the pneumonia and was limited snaps and that sort of thing. So there's part of it that you could understand, but still, just the situation is set up beautifully for him, and he just doesn't seem to be capitalizing on it. So where are you guys at with Deebo? It's been a tricky season.
It's also hard because all of the yak plays that we've seen over the last, 5-6 years from the Niners, they're just not happening. And Deebo is supposed to be the dude where that does happen. So that was his superpower. And then other than that, like other than the yak plays, and he obviously gets the rush attempts, he's just not a conventional wide receiver. So you kind of ask yourself the question, like, moving forward, what am I counting on? And this year it's been, he was hurt for a little bit. He started off the season really well. He had one awesome game, and then it's kind of been meh. And then overtaken on just pure targets and targets per out run. So I feel like Deebo is one of those players that I'm not going to trade for him. I'm not going to sell him on the cheap, but I feel like he's just not an asset that's going to be helpful moving forward into 2025.
Yeah, I have very different outlooks on Deebo from redraft to dynasty. If I'm in a dynasty league and I've got Deebo, I'm trying to cash in on his name, on his value. If he comes out and has a big week this week, I'll look to capitalize because he's an older wide receiver now who kind of 10% plays running back. I expect him to be around with the Niners because of the Brandon Ayuk injury. I expect him to be around with the Niners this next year, but it is not impossible that they cut him this offseason. I think it'll be the following offseason to clear cap space or look to trade him. I mean, he's already been floated in those kind of rumors. We just don't know what kind of I think we've seen the best of him. So it's a downward arrow now at an older age. You want to get something for the name of those type of players. So if I'm in a dynasty, I'm looking to move him. In a redraft league, his value is low enough where I'm willing to take a shot. I don't think while his arrow is pointing down, I don't think that means the guy sucks. I think that Deebo has a handful of really important games rest of season. And, this is where you trade these older, closer to expiring wide receivers. You don't do it once they have no value. He still has value to provide, which is why you can get something for him. So in a redraft, I'm fine trying to trade on the cheap for him. And in a dynasty, I'm trying to trade him while he still has perceived value and years on a contract.
Is he worth a late first?
Like, would I trade him for would I trade him away to acquire a late first? I think I would. I mean, obviously it depends on the situation of my team, if I'm competing for a championship this year, no. If I'm looking like I'm going to miss the playoffs, absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yep, I'm with you.
He's kind of right there in that range. Like, I'd rather have DJ Moore than Deebo Samuel. But for the rest of the season, I'd rather have Deebo. It's weird. Like, I'd rather have DJ Moore in Dynasty, but
they're just inverse.
Yeah, totally. Let's take a quick break and we'll talk about a few more. All right, we're going to keep talking about some players that have been sinking this season. And I want to bring up a player that, this offseason was mostly seen as the quarterback 1 or 2 in Dynasty. And in Superflex startups, it was one of those things where it's just, hey, you just get to set this player, pick him, and kind of move on and not have to think about it. Patrick Mahomes, right now, is not going to go in the probably top 3 or 4 in startups for Superflex. Patrick Mahomes, I'm seeing in some places as the quarterback 6, 7, 8 in Dynasty, which is wild to say for someone who's only 29 years old. And going into the season, I don't know about you guys, I thought he was going to explode.
I am guilty of really believing this was the bounce back, great fantasy season incoming from Mahomes. I mean, I'm lucky that I only had him in one of my 9 leagues. It was like the one I cared about the least. I'm like, oh, I'll just take him a little bit early because I have him nowhere else. I wasn't able to get him anywhere else, and that's just a blessing because we knew right off the bat. It was like 2 weeks in, max of 3 weeks in, where you're like, it's the same old, same old. It's the dink and dunk, little tiny cuts, nothing goes deep, nonsense for fantasy. They're winning football games, but I thought he was going to be so good.
I did too. I was all the way in. And I think looking at the transactions that they made with signing Hollywood, drafting Xavier Worthy, getting Rashee Rice not suspended, not that they had anything to do with that, but just the way it played out for Pat Mahomes in July, August, you're like, okay, here we go. And then Worthy can't get going. He actually had a nice game this past weekend, but in general, can't get going. Rashee Rice is out with a major knee injury. And it kind of just, he said, okay, we know how to win this way. We've done it before. Let's just do it again. So, yeah, I don't know if this is like what the offense wants to be, what they're trying to be, or just they are that way because they have to be with the personnel. I'm not sure.
To put some numbers with it, career lows. I said it somehow.
Khalil.
Career lows in yards per attempt. His TD rate is at 4.4%, also non-Mahomesian, and he's on pace for 37 sacks. His previous career high was 28. So a lot of these games we know have been close. We know they haven't been covering the spread. It's one of those things where if you're playing in Superflex, you usually just kind of say, I said it, forget it, and I'm going to have this player for 10 years. That's what we've been saying for the last couple of years. Now we're having the conversation of, okay, what does it look like for fantasy? And in a startup, I could make the case over a ton of different people that I would take. And then I'm thinking in a first round of a Superflex startup, Mahomes has always been that dude in the top 3 or 4. Just no questions asked. You take him as a quarterback. Now, is he he's not even a first round pick, I feel like, at this point in a Superflex startup. Or at least he's right there on the edge.
I'm sure value-wise, he will be a first-round pick in every Superflex startup.
Oh, for name value alone, I'm saying I would not take him there.
Right. No, it's a worthy conversation. But what that says, if we don't think he should be taken there and we know for a fact he will be taken there, that means his value is perceived higher than the true return is, which means you should be trying to see what you can get for Mahomes in a dynasty league. And right now, midway through the season probably isn't the time when he's not performing well.
Correct.
But in the offseason, every offseason, the narrative, kind of like we were talking about with DJ Moore. The offseason, it's all good. It's all roses. It's all what's the best version of each player's future. So the guys who have extremely high potential, like when you say what's the best version of Jerry Jeudy's future look like? Okay, let's explore that. Maybe he can be a wide receiver too. When you say what's the best version of Patrick Mahomes' future, that's the quarterback one. It's the game-changing, unbelievable Patrick Mahomes. And the fact that he is a guy that you expect to play another decade in the NFL, oh, even if it's not this year, his future will bounce back, and it very well might. But honestly, if I can get kind of that high-end shiny golden nugget for him in this offseason, and then he does perform, he gets back to that when he has a new wide receiver crew and after he's figured out how to live post Kelsey, and 3 or 4 years from now he's awesome again. But I spent 3 or 4 years from now scoring fantasy points from what I got for Mahomes. I'm down for that plan.
Where would you, Kyle? Can you give some names here? I'm interested to see like where he would land.
Yeah, would
as
you
far
rather
as
Kyler
rankings
or Mahomes?
That is tough.
Because before the season, it was no questions. It was Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm on the Kyler side there, but that's not. So it's funny because I still want to get the value. Like, if this was a startup draft, I would probably draft Kyler ahead of Mahomes. But if I already have Mahomes, I would expect to be able to get more than Kyler. Like,
I think
Kyler
you get
plus
like
something.
Kyler in a 2.
Yeah, exactly. And so you do have to take advantage of those. I mean, the reason we're saying to trade Mahomes isn't just to trade him; it's to take advantage of his name and get all the capital you can. It's not just to pivot to a player who might be better. It's to get the value.
Okay, let me give you a couple other names: Jordan Love or Patrick Mahomes.
That's the perfect name. That right there is a coin flip. I lean Mahomes, but I don't feel good about it.
Right. So that's one of those where if you could trade Mahomes for Love and a high second or a low first, yeah, okay, then
yeah, I would do that
because you're already asking the question. I'm not sure who you want. Well, I know that a first round pick is going to be much more valuable than no first round pick. So it's like, all right, take the 50-50 shot and then just add in a valuable rookie to shotgun a pick towards.
Yeah, and to be clear, this conversation isn't this guy's done, he's never going to come back to fantasy relevance. It's a value conversation. If someone's gone down this much and yet the perception is he's probably more like quarterback 4 or 5 in people's minds for Superflex, you know, if he's like 8 or 9 for me, then yeah, you can recoup some value there. Jason, you have a player on here, Dalton Kincaid, who has disappointed in a lot of different ways, and his value is definitely sunk. I'm seeing tight end 7 right now in a lot of startup drafts.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, tight end 7, that's a valuable, like that, you know, right now that's in startups, that in some places that's ahead of Kelsey, who's fallen because of his age, and you can get something for Dalton Kincaid, and I would. I came into the season thinking he's going to be the clear top target earner. I projected a slower offense for the Bills that wanted to run and probably passed, checked it down a lot, which is why I liked Curtis Samuel. I liked Dalton Kincaid. And the system-wise, I think it was still correct. I mean, they're playing that Brady system, but it's been Khalil Shakir. And the connection with Kincaid has not been there. I mean, he's number 1 in deep targets. That is awesome. Except he's 33rd in fantasy points per target. They're not connecting. 32nd in yards per target. I was looking at his projection this year, and when I watch, I'm not sure he's that special. I think he's just I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad tight end. I'm not saying he's not going to have good games, but when you watch Dalton Kincaid and you watch Trey McBride, right? And it's easy now that they're one's scoring a lot of fantasy points, one's not. But I'm just talking on a play-by-play basis. Watch how they catch the ball. Watch how they have to be tackled. Watch their physical ability. Dalton Kincaid, we hoped, was going to grow into an elite NFL player. And it's not a guarantee he doesn't, but he's not going to. Like, he's not going to. That's not who he is. He's not an elite talent. The earlier we take our L's on previous thoughts, usually the better it is. Every now and then you're going to zig, and then you found out you should have zagged. But I do think getting out of Dalton Kincaid right now, while he still has value and a lot of youth. I mean, he's only 25 years old. He's connected to Josh Allen. He's at a position that's a premium. He was a high draft pick this offseason. I just don't believe it. I don't believe in the connection or the talent. I don't believe in really the offense for fantasy has not been what we want for a passing game. Yes, Josh Allen gets it done with the legs, with the rushing touchdowns. The running game has been great with James Cook, but Dalton Kincaid is on pace for 100 targets, which is, I mean, that's good. I would love 100 targets for my tight end, and he's turning that into 600 yards. I wanted to find another like middling tight end. And I know Jonnu just had a big week, but Jonnu's been a middling tight end. He's played half the year without Tua. He's like a check down, guy. And I was just like, well, how's that compared to like Jonnu Smith? Jonnu Smith is on pace for only 88 targets and 761 yards. I mean, it's just not getting done with Dalton Kincaid. He has dropped in value, but I think he still has a lot of value. And I'm not convinced it's ever going to actually pay off the fantasy points to the tune where we hope. The tune where you would need it to pay off for him to be worth the investment he has already cost you to acquire him. So, redraft and dynasty, I am trying to find a nice exit from the Dalton Kincaid wagon that my tight end is hitched to.
Yeah, it's been a tough year. And the thing that stinks for Dalton Kincaid, if you have him moving forward, is the go on bye this week.
And he's
out of the bye.
Injured.
He's dealing with a PCL sprain, which it doesn't seem like it's super severe. Like it's not a Puka type injury from August, but these can linger. And so now, you're questioning, okay, where is he at in week 13, week 14, week 15? And then before you know it, the season's over. And so then you have a disappointing season on the whole, and you're kind of wondering, like, where is his value moving forward?
That's why I would trade him now. I would trade him now while he's...
If you can.
You can trade him now. I mean, especially in a dynasty league where not everything is about what's my matchup this week. Okay,
you can get a first for him.
He's a little injured right now. Yeah, you can absolutely get a first for him. You could trade him plus some other things to maybe upgrade at tight end. I don't think you can get to Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. Maybe not, but maybe you can. Maybe you can take Dalton Kincaid, and a first or another player and just offer it to see if you can go up, especially if that team has other options at tight end. But if he comes back slow from the PCL, doesn't do anything good at the end of this season, that the Bills are going to bring in a wide receiver this offseason. His stock is going to plummet.
Yes. Yeah. So my thought about players like Dalton Kincaid is like he's not a traditional tight end the way that we talk about inline stuff. He's a glorified slot wide receiver sometimes. Dawson Knox plays a ton. He's going to be on this team next year because they extended him 2 years ago. But it's like Kincaid, Pitts, the Gesicki's of the world. You look at their stats sometimes and you go like, this can work if they're the only dude. Remember like Gesicki had 1 year in Miami where he just got peppered. Pitts had 1 year when he was a rookie and they didn't have Drake London, and so he was basically the main dude. And it's kind of like the situation where it's like, unless he sees unreal volume, and you said, 100 targets he's on pace for?
Yeah.
I mean,
something like that, like 103
that's fine,
or something.
But unless he gets to like 125, 130, that's really not going to work because a lot of the stuff that works in the NFL is just play action stuff. And so you need dudes that are doing multiple things. Like I've always been against tight ends that pass block. We don't want them to pass block. But if you're a good run blocker, you at least are like George Kittle where you get to do play action and then you get open for all the stuff. Nobody's worried about Dalton Kincaid as this awesome blocker. And maybe down the road, he does have, an Evan Ingram type season in his bag where it's like tons of PPR volume as this slot dude. It's just really hard for the Bills for that to work. It's like he's on the wrong team.
Yeah.
And their approach to make that work. But I was shocked that they took him in the first round. I think we all said like he's a good college player, just wrong fit. So yeah, he's sinking in value. I'm seeing him right next to Cade Otton, which just makes me smile in some dynasty startups.
Well, Cade Otton's just a rocket ship right now.
That's just wild.
But Cade Otton is, you want to talk about just the right opportunity at the right time. I mean, go get that bag of money, Cade Otton.
He's going to get it this offseason.
And then turn into Dalton Schultz Austin Hooper, Gary Barnidge. Go get your money and then just disappear into irrelevance. That, it's like very predictable, the route here.
But the best part about Otten is he's always on the field. He's like indestructible. He gets clobbered in games, and he's
so necessary right now. I mean, he is. You don't hear what I'm not saying. He's great right now for the Bucs, and that's the thing about tight ends is, like, I think there are a handful of tight ends that if you put them in an opportunity where you said you have to be the guy, you just have to. Our team needs you, and we don't have other wide receivers right now, and we're going to have to pass a lot because of defense, whatever. I think there's a bunch that can go out there and succeed. But you take you take tight ends and you swap them from team to team and situation to situation, and I think the situation is almost more important than the player in most of those cases.
Yeah, and with tight ends, they have a pretty long runway where we've seen guys like Barnidge was the guy you just threw out there. It was like that guy was like 30 or whatever when he all of a sudden decided to go on the
maximum Barnidge. Yeah, I mean, Dalton Kincaid could end up on his next contract for his next team. I mean, we saw that with Evan Ingram. Right. I mean, Greg Olsen. Greg Olsen turned into a Hall of Fame. Greg Olsen was also a freak athlete that Dalton Kincaid will never get to. But I'm just saying, like, we have seen Delaney Walker, guys who are like after way too long in a career at tight end that are like, oh, look at that. Now you're a man.
Yeah, he could be who Dennis Pitta,
the one hip quitter.
All right, Betz, you got one more name here.
Yeah, let's talk Jordan Addison. Obviously, still young, not 23 years old yet. Coming off a rookie year that was very good, 911 yards, 10 touchdowns on 108 targets. But it still feels like something's missing, and I don't know what it is.
Is it weight?
It might be weight. That's put that in the spreadsheet.
He's another one of them smaller guys. 175.
Yeah, I mean he's playing like a wide receiver 2 for an NFL team, which, I mean, with Justin Jefferson, that's what he is. But I think for fantasy, the situation just seems to be capped. I mean, he's at 1.5 yards per route run. It's very fine. It's a very fine number, nothing crazy. 16% targets per route run. That's disappointing. And Kyle has done a lot of research on this stuff of like, what metrics are we looking for? And like, where are the thresholds to not guarantee where a player is going to be in their career, but give us a better idea of the most likely outcome here. And, through those 2 years, he's kind of at the mark that's like, I'm a little worried. Like, he's kind of on the Rashad Bateman trajectory, Corey Davis trajectory as far as his yards per route run, Andy Isabella, Paris Campbell. There's some names in here that have turned it around. Nico, Jameson Williams, don't get me wrong, Christian Kirk. But he definitely has gone from a player that, like, I thought after his rookie year, there was a very, very high likelihood that this is going to work and he will succeed, to the point where now I'm like, I don't know where he is as a player. And this is all, by the way, with TJ Hawkinson off the field for most of the year too, right? So it's been, I think, disappointing overall based off of preseason expectations for Jordan Addison. Yeah,
one of the other comps that came up was Tyler Lockett, who you saw a jump. I mean, they have basically the same targets per out run, yards per out run, because Russ was such an outlier and they had these crazy seasons on touchdowns. I mean, 10 touchdowns as a rookie is wild. Like, that's crazy on 70 catches. And so I think regression, we knew that was coming. It's just one of those players that I have no idea not only how to value him, but I don't know when to start him, ever. I have him on a roster, and I don't know ever when to figure it out.
So wait, are we learning that these light guys, these 175-pound receivers, when they get to the NFL, defenses don't know them, don't respect them, and they just get surprised. They get surprised by Tank Dell. They get surprised by Jaden Reed and Jordan Addison. It's like, whoa, these small guys are good. And then after they're like, oh, they're good. Well, let's put someone big on them. And then it's like,
Jahan Dotson had a good touchdown year as a rookie.
Yeah.
And then it is interesting to look at some of these players and go, okay, what we liked the first year was big plays. We saw a lot of those. And then when Jefferson was out, that was a big part of it. Hawkinson was out for part of this year. But there is the scenario of what is J.J. McCarthy next year, and does that help his value? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, the quarterback is a huge issue. I mean, you take Jordan Addison off of the Vikings, and you move him in a trade for Darnell Mooney to the Falcons and reunite him with Kirk Cousins. He's absolutely fine for fantasy. Jordan Addison, when I'm watching him play, I think he looks great. I don't think he's perfect, but like he's a good wide receiver. Did you see the hit he took this last week? Oh,
no, he got crushed.
Goodness.
You could like feel that through the TV.
It was one of those where, for those listening, he skies up to get a ball and gets hit in the back and kind of gets bent where in a direction you don't bend, and it's like, you can just feel how far his back stretched. But then as soon as the slow-mo, you feel like that's as far as he's going to bend, the defender somehow keeps going and just bends him further. He's a tough player. He's gritty. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. I like him a lot. I think it's a quarterback problem primarily, and I don't know that J.J. McCarthy is the answer. We had expected to have a down year this year while we figured out the answer to that question. Unfortunately, we don't get to answer that question. So now we've got a 2-year down period with Addison where we're figuring out, you somehow you hope that I guess it's true. I guess this could work out. The fact that McCarthy he really is just getting what Mahomes got. I know he's injured and he's not able to take the practices the way that Mahomes did, but when you have the redshirt year, you're still learning. You're still getting so much more familiar with the system, with defenses. You're in these meetings. So you would hope that McCarthy comes out in year 2 the way he would have come out in year 2 had he played year 1. Obviously, some of the on-the-field reps you just can't replicate, but there should be the majority of stuff that you need to learn and process and understand about the NFL. He should be getting 90% of that.
Is he ever going to command the type of target? I mean, it's like, to me, it's just wholly based on McCarthy so that Addison can have enough targets, consistent targets, because like when I'm seeing 3 targets, 4 targets, it's like that's a really hard player to bank on and buy into.
Well, just think about target share because Justin Jefferson's going to get his. Just pencil him in for 30%. And then Hawkinson's going to get his. I think Hawkinson is number 2 in the pecking order. So you will be disappointed a lot in Addison because in order for that to matter, you got to go back to the Kirk Cousins days. You got to go where you're throwing for 4,500 yards. Because at that point, if I've only got 15% target share, that's fine. If the pie is really big, I'll take a smaller slice. But I don't think McCarthy projects, certainly not from his college production, doesn't project to be that type of 4,500 to 5,000 passing yard volume type of quarterbacks.
O'Connell's like they've kind of evened it out this year where they haven't been as pass happy as they were with like Cousins and Nick Mullins, and so and you've seen the success, right? Like they've been good. So maybe it's just kind of that middle ground. But Addison is still super young. You can't like just pin him as like this is what he is. It's just really hard player to figure out. I mean, 10 touchdowns. He's probably never going to repeat that again.
He's the type of player that I think is good for a true rebuilding team. I'm not talking about someone that's like, hey, I think I can, I need to sell a couple pieces. I'm not going to win it this year. I'm going to go for it next year. But sometimes you're tearing a team down to the nubs and starting over. And Addison, I think, could be a player that can really help you a couple years from now. And he's still going to be young enough to matter. He's a good NFL wide receiver. But I think you are a couple years away. That's the type of target, the team that I would be targeting Addison.
Makes sense.
Perfect. All right. That's going to do it for this edition, Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. Make sure you check us out, ballersdiscord.com, if you want to talk all things Dynasty with us. And we'll see you next week for a Thanksgiving episode. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Footballers Dynasty Podcast. If you want to take your Dynasty skills to the next level, check out thefantasyfootballers.com.